Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi, welcome, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Welcome. Good evening. Thank you for joining in. Aha. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Kachi. Okay.
Hi, Judeka. How
Welcome.
you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you. Very fine. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you so much for doing this with us. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining in. As you can see, we have our special guest is currently available, so thank you. I think we will go ahead to start. Kachi, how are you doing? How's your day? How's your day going?
I'm doing really well. Can't complain. The day has been good, so I'm thankful. How about yourself? How you doing? And how's your day been?
Fine. Excited much all day.
Yeah.
Obviously, but fine. It's been a good day. Thank God. It's Friday. Friday is always a good thing.
True. Same.
Yeah. All right. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is a bit of a big moment, for us at Eddie and Amy. Thank you for keeping the dream alive with us. Let me say it that way. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you. And we believe that the work will get done. The work will get done. The work will get done. That's what we aim to do, what we want to do. So thank you. All right. I'm going to go ahead to start. For those of us who might not be familiar with Kachi, it's my honor to read out his profile, a bit. So my own amended version of the profile, because Kachi, this thing you sent me. So Kachi Ekwerike, he's the founder of Postpartum Support Network Africa. Now, Postpartum Support Network Africa is the, I think, leading maternal mental health organization in Nigeria. I mean, if you've heard of the work, that is going on, no one else, as far as I know, is doing as much as they are doing. Kachi recently, so drum roll or something, very recently bagged his PhD from the University of Kansas in America. He has a PhD in leadership, and his motivation is, understanding how leaders driving social change, in Nigeria, the things that motivate them, and how to make them get better. So that's what Kachi is. So he's officially Dr. Kachi, just in case you didn't know. So Kachi, on behalf of Eddie and Amy, and everyone with us on this call, congratulations, Kachi.
Thank you so much.
It's well deserved. It's well deserved. Thank you, and thank you for all the work that you've been doing and you've done so far. Okay, so today, why this topic? I would like to start, by saying that the interestingly, really, the last time I spoke to Dr. Ijoma, we met, somewhere at an exam, and she was talking to me about, she had just started Eddie and Amy, so she was telling me about it. And then she had just joined PSN, you know, and she was talking about, you know, how, so she mentioned you, you know, she said, oh, there's this organization, you know, they are doing so much, you know, and it's something that she was really passionate about. She was really, really trying to get me to volunteer, you know, but for a story that is for another day, you know, I couldn't, you know, and everything, you know, but I think everyone knows that something that was really close to her heart, you know, so it's a good coincidence, you know, that now that Eddie and Amy is rolling on, you know, May is Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month. So that's really what we want to talk about. There's so much to be talked about, but we kind of want to give a bit of an overview, you know, so that's why the topic is, you know, why does maternal health, mental health, why does it matter? You know, why is it such a big deal? Why should we be concerned? So first thing that I'm going to ask is, what is maternal mental health?
That's a great question, Angelica. I feel like everybody talks about maternal health, you know, like when the woman is pregnant or she just had a baby, everyone seems to be concerned about her physical health, you know. And I say everyone, you know, some doctors don't even think about the woman's health. Many people focus on the baby once the baby comes. But at least when she's pregnant, there's a lot of focus on her physical health. So is she eating the right food? Is she getting enough rest? Is she taking all of her vitamins? You know, is she, you know, exposed to malaria or not? They give her all of the education she needs to be physically healthy through pregnancy up to childbirth. I think that once a woman has the baby, even physically, the attention falls off. People just feel like she's fine.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, she goes for antenatal, I mean, postnatal. She sees, you know, a gynae or the pediatrician. There's conversations about her physical health. Now, maternal mental health basically has to do with her mind. Okay, so how's she doing emotionally? How's she doing mentally? These are questions that women seldom get asked, you know, when they go for postnatal care. And certainly that's what I noticed, that there's very, very little attention placed on the mental health of the mother, even while she's pregnant. And then, of course, once she has the baby, again, everything falls off and everybody forgets about her mental health. So that's where PSN Africa comes in. So we really focus on the mind of the mom while she's pregnant and after she has the baby, because we think it's important, and you know, research has confirmed that it's important that we pay attention to the mental state of moms during pregnancy and after childbirth.
Yeah, Kachi, I mean, that's very true. I was saying to someone just yesterday, you know, that really, so I have a friend who just had a baby, and I realized that in spite of the fact that at least in the past few weeks there's been a lot of talk about maternal mental health around me, I have to think back to ask myself that have I really asked her, okay, how are you doing? You know, I remember saying, are you sleeping well? And she said, oh, she's not. And honestly, my reflex response was, you know, you just had a baby. That's what babies are here for, you know, those usual things we do. So it's something that we don't. You're very right to say that it's something that we don't think about, you know. So now, statistically, maternal mental health disorders are the commonest complication of pregnancy.
That's correct.
It's almost scary when you say that, because you're like, how, you know, how come, you know, it can't be, you know, but really, according to the numbers, and we know that everything is about data, you know, what you cannot back up with data doesn't really exist, kind of, you know. So now the next thing is, you know, why is it that in spite of this fact, it's not talked about? You know, if statistically everybody who is pregnant has a higher chance of having a mental health disorder due to pregnancy than the more common things that we know about, like maybe the preeclampsia, the hypertension, you know, the bleeding, how come, like you just said, we don't talk about it?
It's because it's invisible, you know.
Okay.
So it's invisible to the eye. So if I break my foot right now, I put a band-aid on it, or like, you know, I go to for physical therapy, they put, you know, a cast on it or something. Everybody's going to see it. Everyone's going to ask, oh my God, Kachi, what's wrong with your legs? You know, what's wrong with your foot? Oh, there's a band-aid on it. They can see it. If I cut my eye, everybody's going to see it. If I have malaria, everybody's going to see it. But if I tell somebody I'm depressed, they look at you and they're like, yo, what's
Really?
happening? You know, it's not visible to the eye.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, is that people just don't see it. And so it's hard to get it when they don't see it. It's hard to empathize when they don't see it. It's hard to talk about it when they don't see it. Plus, culturally, we've created this illusion or delusion that women in our continent don't struggle with these things, you know, that it's natural to have a baby, and all of the things that women feel once they start to feel depressed will just fly away, you know, like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, look at you first born. Do you understand? Like, it's not something we talk about because we think it is normal for mothers to just carry a full human being in her tummy and walk through that 9 months and deliver that full human being, and that anything that she experiences is okay, it's normal. So when some mothers say, oh, I'm 1 in 5, you know, I'm one of those 5 women who is not feeling quite good mentally, emotionally, people miss it because they do not see it. Okay, I think in Nigeria, the only time where we raise eyebrows is when we see, like, say, the manifestations of postpartum psychosis, like, oh, the woman,
yes,
oh, you know, the woman stabbed, or the woman ran away from the home, or the woman is crazy. That's when we start to talk about it because we can see it. Okay, so if the woman did not kill her baby, then oh, what's wrong with her? You know, everything is supposed to be good. So that's really why I think, you know, the lack of awareness and the stigma around mental health in Nigeria, and the fact that it's invisible, all leads to this underdiagnosis, and the fact that people just don't talk about it as much.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I like the word you used, that, you know, there's this illusion, you know, that as Africans or Nigerians, you know, moms, you know, like, it's normal, your mom went through it, you know, every other mother, you know, went through it, you know, and so it's like we're expected to just roll with the punches, you know, kind of. So now, so moving on from there, you know, there's this, you know, thinking sometimes, I guess it also covers mental health, you know, generally, you know, that, oh, you know, these things are, it's like a foreign thing, you know, or, you know, it's mild, you know. So sometimes, I mean, I've heard people speaking about, you know, baby blues, you know, with a lot of let me use the word, you know, confidence, you know, like, oh yes, you know, mothers usually when they have a baby, they can have baby blues, you know, you just feel down for a while, you know, then it goes away, you know, and things like that. So I think, you know, the next thing, you know, is, you know, so what are the things, you know, that can happen? So I think people talk about depression often, you know, and like I mentioned, baby blues, you know, many times people say baby blues, and I think why I'm talking about baby blues is because it's often talked about, let me say, dismissively. So it's just like, oh, it's something that will come and pass. She's just having baby blues, you know, she will be okay in a while. So let's just, you know, push it under the carpet and go. So what are the things, you know, that can happen? What are the things that make up, you know, these maternal mental health issues?
Yeah, so baby blues, I guess the thing with every other illness is that people dismiss it when it's not very severe. Okay, so if you have malaria, you have like mild malaria, people are like, oh, don't worry, you just drink enough water, just lay down, you'll be fine. It's the same thing with baby blues too. It's, you know, the science shows that the first 2 weeks, it is completely true for mothers to experience emotional challenges. So weeping spells, loss of appetite, low energy, a bit of sadness here and there. The first 2 weeks, a mom would experience that, and that's okay, that's normal. And so baby blues, that's what's called baby blues. And that's oftentimes dismissed because it's not very severe. Without any kind of treatment, that would fade away. That's just your body naturally adjusting to the fact that you had just produced a full human being, you know, full human being. So that's baby blues. But yes, we have postpartum depression, which a lot of people talk about. You know, postpartum depression is what it is: depression after childbirth. It could have its onset during pregnancy. Okay, so a woman can experience perinatal depression, so depressed during pregnancy, all the way to the postpartum period. And it's characterized by, the same things you would see during postpartum blues, just with more severity. So it lasts more than 2 weeks. You're feeling sad, you're feeling empty, you're feeling hopeless. You feel like your life has no meaning. You feel like your child will be better off with a different mom. All of them have side out thoughts. You feel like you should end your life, like life's not worth living. All of those things, characterize postpartum depression. But I dare say that postpartum anxiety is even more prevalent. So people talk about depression a lot, but anxiety is crippling. It's your mind not being able to shut down. You have intrusive thoughts that you cannot just shake off. And moms have anxiety for good reasons, okay? So you just had this baby. You have concerns about your ability to raise this baby, okay? So would I be able to care for this baby as I could, or I should? Would I be able to give this baby the life that I think this baby deserves, okay? So with postpartum anxiety, it's one, your natural maternal instincts will kick in because you want to be protective. But also your mind is doing all of these calculations about how to care for the child. And sometimes it could spiral. So you'll probably be finding it difficult to sleep at night because you're worried and you're anxious. You have your heartbeats just keeps racing, So I see a lot of moms who deal with postpartum anxiety more often than I see depression. Okay, so some moms become sad because you could experience some sadness when you're anxious. The same thing with depression, so you could experience some anxiety when you're depressed.
Exactly.
Some moms will experience some sadness, but they'll tell you for a fact, like, I'm not really sad, I'm just anxious, I'm always worried, I don't know what's going to happen, and I just feel like I don't have control, as much control as I would want. So I see a lot of postpartum anxiety as opposed to postpartum depression, really, from my own experience. But we also have postpartum OCD. Now, you see that anxiety that I spoke about? Just make that one more with persistent intrusive thoughts. So you have the obsession and then you have the compulsion. So OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. There's the obsession, which is this thought just cannot go away from your mind. So even if it's the thought of, somebody's coming to harm my baby, that thought is just persistent and you cannot shake it off. Okay, so you have this very scary thought. That's the obsession part. That's the obsessive part. And the compulsion is you find moms doing certain things over and over again because they feel like they have to do it. Okay, so you see a mom scrubbing her bathroom like 10 times in a day. And I'm not even joking. I'm not trying to exaggerate. Like, she cleans the bathroom over and over again because she's so scared, the obsessive thoughts, that something, in the bathroom would harm the baby, say germs. Okay, so she would scrub the bathroom over and over again. It's terrible illness. It's heartbreaking to see. I mean, it's hard to explain until you see a mom suffer with OCD. How distressing it is for her. So you'll find moms, washing their hands like 15 times. Okay, you find moms say, "Oh, nobody else should carry the baby," because she's just obsessed with the fact that something might hurt the baby.
Might happen.
That's postpartum obsessive compulsive disorder. I know people joke around and say, "Oh, this mother has OCD." Like, it's not something to joke with. It's not a it's not a character deficiency.
Character, that's what I was going to say.
Struggling with OCD, it's something that needs to be diagnosed. It's something that she needs to get help for ASAP. We also have postpartum post-traumatic stress disorder, postpartum PTSD. And this is one that we talk about often, and it's because I feel like the average Nigerian carries trauma, and so we think that trauma is normalized, No joke. Sorry, the average Nigerian carries trauma.
I'm with you. I live in Lagos, so I'm with you. I mean, walking down the street sometimes can be traumatic.
Lagos is very traumatic. So I think that we don't talk about trauma because we just think, it's all of us deal with trauma. But postpartum post-traumatic stress disorder is characterized by trauma after childbirth. So a mom might have a traumatic birth experience. So say she had planned to have the vaginal delivery, and then there's a call for an emergency CS that her mind was not prepared for, that she did not want. And so it could be very traumatic for her. that, oh, they have to cut me open, or, oh, you know, this is not the best experience that I wanted. So, and then if you then end up in the hands of doctors or nurses who are not so kind to you, it could be very, very traumatic.
Yeah.
Say, hey, you know, bet is bet. And even though that's true, bet is bet, women still have preferences, yeah? So
Yeah.
if you end up in the hands of someone who's unkind, the whole experience might be traumatic. And so mothers could come out of that experience being very traumatized. And what I mean by that is it's not just, you know, feeling scared or having repetitive thoughts about that experience. It's also like avoiding anything that reminds them of the experience. So you see some mothers would have their babies and they have that fear of going back to that same hospital for postnatal care. So they like change hospital because just going to that hospital triggers anxiety, triggers all of that trauma. Yes, and so the baby too might remind them of the betting experience. You know, sex might become something they run away from because they do not want to get pregnant again and go through all of that experience. I've seen mothers who are really just anxious about, you know, letting their spouses touch them because they just fear that they will get pregnant. They don't want to be put through that traumatic experience again. So they're avoiding that. They're avoiding all of that. Now, I just saw a comment like trauma may not even be about the birth experience, and that's true.
Yeah.
Else in the pregnancy period that, you know, was traumatic. It could be abuse, you know, that they suffered in the hands of their spouses, you know, during the pregnancy, and during the pregnancy. So I mean, moms could suffer PTSD, and this is a real thing that we don't talk about as often as we should. And then psychosis. So in Nigeria, we are familiar with postpartum psychosis. We have a local language for it. People know what it is, at least on the surface. They know that some mothers can have a baby and then start to hallucinate or act crazy. You know, we have. I mean, I think the global prevalence rate is about 1 in 1,000, but I dare say it's more prevalent in Nigeria. We see a lot of women. You know, I mean, if 10 people contact PSN Africa about a maternal mental health issue, at least 1 in those 10 women, you know, had suffered psychosis. And it's because we always wait until we only reach out when it's like a very severe thing, like psychosis. But it's characterized by hallucinations, delusions, that moms would experience after childbirth. So you could see a mom, after having her baby, she could say, you know, this baby has been sent to kill me. I must protect myself and my family. All of those delusions. Or she might be hallucinating. She might be seeing things that other people cannot see. So I had one time at this mom's, you know, we sat down with her and she's like, Kachi, can you not see the people behind you? For a minute, I was scared. You know, it's like, can you not see the people behind you? I was so convinced. Can you not see the people behind you? They want to come kill me and kill my husband, and it's because of this baby. So she felt like the baby was a real threat, you know, to her own safety. And that so she might act in very aggressive ways. She might act in ways that might put the life of the baby in danger and her own life too. I've seen a mom run into the express road. She could have gotten herself killed. So if a mother suffers postpartum psychosis, it's a medical emergency. Please get her to a facility ASAP. Okay, so postpartum psychosis is the most severe form of mental health challenges that moms could experience after childbirth. And the onset it often happens faster. So many women I've seen who experience postpartum psychosis, they probably started during pregnancy, and after childbirth, immediately after childbirth, trigger happens, you know, or maybe within the first 2 weeks of childbirth, it happens. It's very rare the mom would develop psychosis, you know, after 4 weeks postpartum, although that happens. But we often see that manifestation just immediately after childbirth. So that's something that we need to keep in mind too as we try to support moms. Like, if you notice any sort of change in her behavior, please, you know, help her get help. If you see something, say something. If you feel something, say something.
Yes, feel something, say something. That is PSN's motto. Thank you so much, Kachi. You know, I think I just want to say this for the sake of emphasis. You know, when you talked about the post-traumatic, you know, stress disorder, you know, I want to emphasize again for everyone who is, you know, with us on this call, you know, that trauma, remember that trauma doesn't necessarily mean something bad, you know, something, you know, big happened. You know, trauma is as defined, you know, by the way you felt about it, you know, because sometimes I know that people tend to, you know, kind of beat themselves up. So it's like, I'm feeling bad because I'm feeling bad, you know, because this happened, you know. So I was planning to travel, you know, to have my baby, and I couldn't travel. And I ended up being stuck in Nigeria. So I had to go to the hospital, you know, and I'm all, you know, this was like my dream that has kind of been cut short, you know, something like that. That's trauma. And so sometimes, you know, we try to minimize it because we feel that, oh, but at least I didn't have a blood transfusion, you know, or I didn't have a complicated surgery, you know, something like that. So I just wanted to kind of chip that in a bit. Okay. Now the other thing, I guess the next, you know, thing is, you know, especially when it comes to mental health in these parts, you know, there's a phrase, we don't have it in our family. You know, we don't have it. It doesn't happen to us. That kind of thing is not. It's not in our family. It's not in our blood. It's not in our genes. You know, we're not like that. You know, things like that. So I think that's like the average reason for people saying mental health. Oh no, definitely not. It can't be a mental health thing. You know, because it doesn't run in our family. So I'm saying that, you know, to ask, you know, that are there risk factors? You know, that, you know, what are the things that can make it more likely, you know, for one person to have, you know, to be, let me say, to be the 1 in 5, you know, rather than other people.
That's a very good question, Njideka. So I'd say quickly that most people have mental health challenges in their family. You know, people say, "Oh, I don't have it in my family."
Yeah.
Just because the first thing is that we don't know. It's hard for us to tell.
Because they
Africans,
don't check.
Nigerians in particular, do a very good job of shielding, yeah, information like this. So you could have this great grand auntie that had a mental health challenge breakdown, and nobody knows because they just kept her in the house and they shielded her, you know, and she did not get the help she needed until she passed. We might not know. Okay, so I think it would be very ignorant to say that, oh, I don't have a mental health challenge or mental illness in my family, because we just never know. And so it's best to move from a place of it's possible that I might be susceptible to this thing, because we all are. You know, I just feel like we're all susceptible to mental health challenges. It just takes one non-normative life event to trigger it sometimes, and then it happens. But in terms of risk factors, besides the genetic factors, so it's well established that if you have relatives who have suffered a mental illness of any kind, the mom is more likely to suffer, you know, postpartum depression, anxiety, or any of the mental health challenges that plague women after childbirth. But besides genetic factors, the number one risk factor that studies show for moms is a spouse that is not supportive. And I see a lot of men on the call, you know, so this is my way of reaching out to men on the call. You know, if you're really concerned about your wife breaking down and suffering a mental health challenge after childbirth, the work that you need to do is provide her support during pregnancy, after child. If a woman does not have that support, that social support, and I'm not saying, oh, darling, you're doing a good job. You know, that verbal support is good, okay? But do the work so that she can rest. Because I tell you, when I see a lot of moms, the first thing I ask them is like, are you getting enough sleep? And of course, they don't get enough sleep because babies can cry all night. And the husband is snoring next to her, not helping out with the baby, and she's overwhelmed and stressed. And so she starts to feel like, oh, she brought this upon herself. She starts to cry. She feels lonely and isolated. While the husband is just going about his normal day-to-day life, she feels that guilt and then resentment towards him because it's not supportive. And so she looks across the road, she sees this other woman whose husband is carrying the baby, you know, and all that, helping her, and she feels like, oh, her life is like the worst. So it's a husband can make a lot of difference. It's a supportive spouse. It doesn't have to be a husband, because I recognize that a lot of women too might have these kids with men who they're not married with. Married to, okay, and that's completely okay. Like the man, whoever is responsible for the baby, needs to be supportive, to provide that support that the woman crucially needs. So if a woman knows from a very early stage in the pregnancy that this man is not available, this man is not supportive, it's important that she reaches out for support, because she will very likely suffer emotionally when she has a baby because of that lack of support. Okay, so that's one risk factor. Another risk factor is traumatic events during pregnancy and after childbirth. If a mom has a traumatic experience during pregnancy or after childbirth, she's more likely to suffer a mental health breakdown postpartum. A breakdown in significant relationship during pregnancy and after childbirth. So if, for example, you have a very good relationship with your mom during pregnancy, I mean, you've always had a very good relationship with your mom, and then you guys start having this fight during pregnancy and after childbirth, you might suffer emotionally after delivery. Okay, so I often operate from this interpersonal relationship framework when I work with moms. When I sit down with moms and I say, hey, how are you feeling emotionally? And they tell me, oh, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling depressed. I validate all of those emotions, and then I ask about breakdown in relationships. And oftentimes you say, oh, my mom is just being too much, or my husband is just... So significant relationships in the woman's life, if there's any breakdown in those relationships, it's like an anchor, yeah? So without that anchor, you're a bit unstable. So that's something to check on those, like what are the significant relationships in your life, and how are those impacted, how do you maintain those relationships during pregnancy after childbirth. Another risk factor is depression during pregnancy. So if a mom gets depressed during pregnancy or has a previous history of depression, it's more likely to suffer depression or other mental health challenges postpartum. So those are some risk factors. Substance misuse too is a risk factor. So if, for example, you do some narcotics, any kind of drug, any kind of psychotropic drug can negatively impact you during pregnancy and after childbirth. So I often encourage moms to stop any... It's hard to stop, and I'm saying this with utmost humility and understanding that it's not easy to quit a habit, okay, when you're pregnant. But if you can, the work is to quit any use of drugs while you're pregnant, okay, or as you're planning to get pregnant, and then don't use it until, say, 2 years after you had your baby. Okay, because the thing is, and I think I need to emphasize this, that once a woman has a baby, there's a lot of hormonal changes going on. So, when the woman is pregnant, her estrogen level starts to increase. Okay?
Yeah.
So that estrogen level will probably peak at week 32. Now, so imagine your estrogen goes from 0 to 100 during pregnancy, and then after childbirth, that estrogen level crashes immediately.
Dips, yeah.
Okay, so she's it creates a lot of vulnerability for her, because just think about for women here who are still menstruating or something, when you think about your period, for example, and how emotional you feel during your period, and how your mood swings, and how emotionally you're active. Now multiply that by 100. That's what happens when a woman goes from pregnancy to childbirth. So she's all over the place emotionally, because hormonally she's all over the place. There's sudden changes that makes it just hard to have herself together. So that any other drug acting on your mind at that time is not going to be doing you any good. So it's why you stay away from alcohol. Yes, completely stay away from drugs at that point. So those are risk factors that I really think we should keep just talking about, that moms need to understand that they navigate pregnancy and childbirth.
Wow, thank you so much, Kachi. Okay, so I'm sure that there's so much to be learned. It's amazing. I think that the singular most important, like you mentioned, risk factor is not getting sufficient support, which, generally speaking, to a large extent, does not cost money and does not need to be, you don't need to source it outside the home, generally speaking. speaking, you know. So this is not necessarily, you know, like something you need to go and buy over the counter, or, you know, find a doctor or meet a doctor. Just provide support. And like Kachi has said, real support, you know, not just, oh, hey, yeah, let me rub your back. How was your day? Is the food ready? You know, while we're at it, you know, and things like that, you know. So real support, you know, dads, moms, you know, sisters, you know, whoever. We've learned, you know, that support is key. And, you know, I dare say hospitals too, you know. I mean, I know that there are so many amazing places, you know, where people are getting amazing things done, you know. But I would just, you know, like to say that's what this whole thing is about. We're raising awareness, you know. You know, we need to. There's a lot more room for us to do better. Okay, there's a lot more room for us to do better. You know, let's from the medical, you know, okay, that we should, you know, lead the charge, kind of, you know. Let's do better. Fine, we know that many times culturally, you know, socially, moms are not getting the amount of support, you know, that they need. There's a lot more, you know, that we can do, you know, to step in. You know, I know sometimes work is crazy and we're all busy, you know, and all that, but we do need to do better. Okay, so now I want to ask this. I mean, we've probably talked about it a bit, you know, but so what happens? We've said that many times, you know, these things go unchecked, you know, it's not seen, it's not visible, it's not like a broken leg or a broken head, you know, so everybody just goes on, you know, and moves. But, you know, what happens if so presuming, you know, someone doesn't end up with something as dramatic, for want of a better word, you know, or as obvious, you know, as psychosis, you know, what happens in the long term if it goes unchecked? I mean, you just mentioned 2 years, you know, after, you know, childbirth, you know, hormones are still trying to get themselves in place. So what happens to this, you know, the thousands of the 1 in 5s, you know, that were not diagnosed, you know, nobody did anything about it, you know, and everyone just moved on? What happens?
There's a lot of complications that could arise. Honestly, it's one of the things that motivated me to start PSN Africa. I began to imagine, like, hey, how many more moms are going through all of these things without any knowledge? And how is that impacting them long term? How's it impacting their kids? How's it impacting their relationship? How's it impacting their work? How's it impacting herself? And yes, there's a lot of consequences. So we'll start with the mom. We'll start with the mothers. Okay, so with moms, if your depression goes untreated, it can become long lasting. So I cannot tell you how many young people today are saying, like, oh, there's something wrong with my mom. And then when we go to the hospital, we spoke to like a psychiatrist. They said, oh, it probably started after she had her third child, you know, and it's like it was perfect, and she did not get the help that she needed, and just kept reoccurring. Say postpartum OCD, for example. I've heard, you know, young women say, I think my mom is struggling, and when we went to the psychiatrist, it sounds like after she had me, okay, that OCD was not treated, and it's just lingered and lingered and lingered, and now it's just making it hard for her to function. So, postpartum mental health challenges, perinatal mood and anxiety disorders can linger for a very long time. It can interfere with the woman's daily functioning, could interfere with her ability to bond with her child, could interfere with her ability to get her own work done, might interfere with her ability to her relationship with her husband. So it's important that we identify it early and provide her the support that she needs. With the child, it's, you know, also very severe. So research has shown that when a woman's emotional state during pregnancy has a lot of impact on the baby's cognitive development and emotional development, yeah, even in the womb. So a woman who is depressed during pregnancy, or who is even just very stressed, like cortisol, you know, the environment within the baby, where the baby is growing up, is already like not conducive. When the baby comes to life, yeah, and she has the baby, moms typically, the way you help your child develop emotionally and social-emotionally is through play. So when a woman is playing with her baby, that's how the baby bonds with the mom, and that's how baby develops socio-emotionally too, cognitively too. It's through play. A woman who is severely depressed cannot play with her baby.
Able to do that. Wow.
I know what I'm saying. Like a woman who is severely anxious, a woman who's struggling with OCD cannot play with her baby. So when people, I think people struggle to see the connection, like, oh, how does it impact the child? Of course it does impact the child, because she, you know, it's not there to provide mentally. She's checked out. Like the mother suffers psychosis, for example, that's a clear one. There's no way she's present with the child. If she's anxious all the time, if she's anxious all the time, there's no way she can stay present with the kid, to play with the child, provide the child with everything the child needs. So there's that. Okay, so that impacts the child's social emotional development. It impacts how well the child adjusts when the child grows up. There's studies that show a relationship between attachments during I mean, children have attachment styles, yeah? So if a child is born, the child typically, if everything goes well, will develop a secure attachment with the mom. Okay? Because it's not just about the mom too, with the parents. So the father, the mom, the child has this secure attachment. When the child cries, the child knows that somebody's going to be responsive, you know, to meet their needs. The child begins to develop this sense of security about themselves and the world. Okay? If the mom is severely depressed and cannot even get out of the bed, if she's low in energy, if she's sad all the time, if she has no appetite, so she has no energy to get anything done, she's not as responsive as she would be if she did not have that personality. So the child would cry, no responsiveness.
No response.
The child begins to develop this insecurity from a very early age. And so you'll see the child later on in life, say once they're an adult, has this very insecure attachment, cannot maintain a relationship with anybody, believes that everybody's going to leave, or people are not really as there for you as you think they will be. It all starts from childhood. And this is science. It's not Kachi making this thing up. It all stems from the attachments and the bond the child builds with the parents from the very early stage. And so a woman who's not feeling well is unable to provide that for her child. Okay, so mothers who struggle with depression and anxiety also often struggle with breastfeeding. So that oxytocin that the child gets from breastfeeding, even the mom supposed to get, is missing, is lacking. And you know, I'm pro breastfeeding, but I also know it becomes very challenging for moms when they're depressed. And I always encourage moms, like, well, just feed your baby formula if you feel like you cannot do it. It's causing you a lot.
You can't cope.
Okay? But there is loss that comes with that too. So acknowledge that loss is also very important, and it impacts the baby's development. And of course, there's breakdown in relationships. I hate to give advice, but I always tell every married couple, once they first have a baby, once they first get married, to like wait till after 1 year before they have a child. Because it's not really the baby putting a strain on the relationship. It's just the fact that the dynamics have changed. When a woman has a baby, when a couple has a baby, the dynamics changes. Couples would have to work extra hard to maintain the relationship.
The relationship they have
becomes even more complicated. If she's always anxious, it becomes even more complicated to maintain, build that relationship. And of course, she's not thinking consciously about the husband at the time, because she has herself to think about. She has a baby to care for, and her mental health is compromised. So there's a strain in the relationship that husbands sometimes do not understand, so they do not know how to provide the support or do the work that's necessary to that relationship. So it's very common. And I often see that once a woman has the baby and she's about postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety, there is, you know, an immediate collapse in her relationship with her husband. So think about what that does for her mental health. If she needs the support of her husband, and then that relationship is broken,
no, she is not there. That's just a cycle, you know. Wow.
So that's what happens. And then breakdown in spousal relationship has long-term implications too, with the way they work together to raise the kids, with the way they, you know, work together themselves.
It still comes back to the children.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's that makes this whole thing complicated, which is why maternal mental health matters. Which is why moms.
I was just going to say that. Okay, you know, we've kind of answered the question, you know, on why maternal mental health matters, you know. I mean, guys,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm doing the math in my head, and I'm like, okay, this almost account for everything, because everybody was born by a mother, So that means that it's, how would I put it? The ground zero of everybody is at risk, of being complicated, kind of, if we have these issues, wow, okay. Yes, maternal health does matter. If you're on this call, and you didn't think it did before now, please, I think this is, what's that thing we used to say? I think we have been able to convince you and not confuse you, that maternal mental health does, it does matter. It does make a big difference. It influences everything. And, there was something, there keeps, there's this thing that keeps putting people at risk of, going into cycles. I kept on seeing cycles in the things you were saying, so this leads to this, and then it complicates this all over again, and we're back here. So if she's depressed, she's unable to breastfeed. If she doesn't breastfeed, not breastfeeding in itself, can make her depressed, make it worse, and then we keep, going on and on. So yes, maternal health does matter, and there's a lot of work, that needs to be done. Okay, so Kachi, what can moms do? What can moms do? Okay, so this is, let's talk about moms, first. What can moms do? So moms, I already have children, I'm planning to, I'm thinking, what can moms do, to protect themselves, to, take note of things on time, just to, let's say, not be a 1 in 5, or at least address the 1 in 5 in time.
That's a good question. So first, I mean, it'd be very irresponsible of me to tell a mom that there's somehow, some way that she can prevent herself from becoming depressed, because it's just not true. It's like, you can try, yeah, but I would not want a mom who's struggling with depression feeling like she could have done something to prevent it.
Something good.
Okay, so it's like, that would just make her feel like it was her fault and feel guilty again, and then
cycles.
So, yeah, I often do not tell moms, and it's not because I don't want to tell them. It's true. It's very hard for you to prevent depression after childbirth. It's not within your control, but you could try. And so to try means that you try as much as possible to get rest when you're pregnant. Once you have your baby, try as much as possible to have support, not just have people around the house who are you out.
Yeah.
Have people who are there to help you care for your kids, make food, clean that can sleep. Somebody who can do the night watch, carry the baby while you express the food in a bottle so that the person can feed the baby while you sleep. Okay? Those things do help. It makes a lot of difference. When moms come to me and say, "Hi, Kachi, I'm struggling with depression. I just had a baby," the first question I ask her is, "Have you been getting sleep?" Most times, once we're able to sort out the sleep problem, the mom starts to do better, and it's common sense. Even me, if I stay 2 days without sleep, I cannot survive. Like, nobody can survive without sleep. Everybody breaks down mentally when there's no sleep, and so it is irrational that we expect moms to go first 4 months without sleep, and we expect them to be fine.
Wave it away like it's normal.
It makes no sense. So if you can find somebody who can come to the house and carry the baby while you sleep, somebody can care for the baby while you can sleep. Your husband can stay up at night and carry the baby while you sleep. That's so important. It makes a lot of difference. Not even underestimate that. Exercise makes a lot of difference. The truth is that in Nigeria, we do not have a culture of exercise. Now, there's a growing culture of exercise, in Nigeria, but it's the commercialized one. It's the yoga fancy pants exercise. And yoga is great. It's very privileged. It's like people don't have money to sign up for yoga class, don't have money to buy the yoga pants and the sport bra. They feel like they cannot exercise. Please don't fall into that trap. Okay, you don't need a fancy bra, you don't need the yoga pants, you don't need the yoga mat before you can exercise or even do yoga. Okay, it's just Nigeria is just become this very capitalist state where we're trying to commercialize everything. So as much as you can, even if it's by just going on a walk. We have realities that complicates these things and make it hard. I was speaking to a mom, she's like, "Kachi, which streets in Lagos?"
Exactly.
You know, it's like where I want to get exercise. You know, where is safe
even
enough
within
for me?
even within your compound, you might not even have enough room to, even within your house, depending on where you live, you might not have enough room to even walk around.
So I understand that, you know, but if you do have the room, if you stay in like an estate or you stay in an area where you can just take a 10 minutes walk or I advise 30 minutes a day, you would be surprised what that would do for your mental health. You know, 30 minutes every day, just walking around your neighborhood, if it's safe enough for you, because I also realize that some neighborhoods are not safe. You know, just walk from your street to the bus stop and walk from your bus stop back to your house. Okay, just from the bus stop to your house, from your house to the bus stop, do that for 30 minutes. You will be surprised. But I also recognize that it's privileged too, because you would need to have somebody at home to care for the baby, and many women do not have that person at home. And so if the baby is newborn, it's hard to expose the baby to, you know, the air we breathe in Lagos is, I think we're not talking about that enough. The air we breathe in Lagos is not, you know, it's crazy. It's not healthy for the child, for the newborn. Yeah, so nice that one might not be able to carry her newborn for a walk, and so she will need to have to be at home to care for the child. So if you do have somebody, which is why support. If you do have somebody, leave the baby for 30 minutes and go for a walk. It will make a lot of difference. Eating properly. So we are living at the period where everybody wants to snap back, you know, that body real quick. Once I have the baby, you know, there's the social media illusion that mothers can just return to their natural or previous body.
Just like that.
There's no such thing as returning to your previous body. You've changed. And it's heartbreaking for moms to realize. It's a hard pill to swallow. You would not get back that body that you had before that baby. It's not possible. You could shed the weight, that's possible, but there's no snapping back. There's no returning to your previous state. And that's a hard truth that it's really hard for many women to embrace. So do not put yourself under that pressure and then deny yourself the nutrition that you need and that your baby needs and that your brain needs to go through this transition. Okay, so mothers need to eat well, okay, after they have their baby, rest well. So eat a healthy diet, exercise as much as you can. All of this would help. And again, go back to the social support. Husbands, please. I mean, I don't know if you can tag your husband to this live. You can share this live. I mean, I hope you would save the live. Send your husband if you can. There's one crazy guy. He has something that I think you should hear, you know, and send him this video. I think that's the only way we can reach husbands, because they seldom tune into things like this. But I think that the husband who is supportive can make a lot of difference. Just don't snore while your wife is awake at 3 a.m. caring for the baby. I'll tell you, when I started this practice, I was only 24 years old. One of my first case was a mom calling me on the phone that she was with a knife. She wanted to kill herself. It was 3 a.m. in the morning. And I say, hey, put the knife away. Where's your husband? She took the phone to the room. The husband was snoring.
Wow.
You know, like 3 a.m. in the morning, the husband is snoring. The baby is crying. The baby colic. The baby just does not stop crying. What she was doing, the baby's crying because of the colic. And the husband is asleep. And she's there feeling very lonely. And that's why I say it's not about having people in the house. It's about having people who are willing to support. So she had her mother-in-law in the house too, who was also sleeping and snoring. You know, so she wanted to kill herself. And if we did not have that conversation at 3 a.m. in the night, she would have killed herself while the husband was sleeping. Okay. Yeah, so for the husbands, please, you know, if your wife is awake, stay awake with her. Tell her to go and sleep share the load. Tell her sleep for 1 hour. Yeah. You know, it makes a lot of difference. It does make a lot of difference. And you need to keep in mind that if this woman is a working mom, she already feels like she's made a lot of sacrifices. She's at home, she cannot be at work. She feels like she'll feel a lot of resentment for her husband, like her husband's life is still progressing, and she's there. Okay, stuck at home with the baby. So she's already feeling a lot of anger and resentment. that if you do not have a husband who is supportive and who can speak to that loss, so this is what I encourage husbands to do, like speak to the loss your wife is experiencing. Just because she has a baby does not mean that she's not experiencing loss. She's mourning her job that is on standstill. She's feeling like her life is no longer hers, like her life is now being, you know, completely controlled by a 2-month-old baby. You know, there's that for, it feels the resentment that your whole life is progressing while she's like regressing. So speak to the loss and say, hey, my wife, I can see like this is really hard. I see that you've not slept for a bit. I wish I can do more. I can see that I'm going to work and you're home for the most part. I'm sure this is overwhelming. Just speak to the problem, speak to the loss she's experiencing.
Acknowledge that is happening.
Even
Make
me,
it a real
like
thing.
if I go through something, like you tell me, like, hey, Kachi, I can see that this thing you're going through is hard. Yeah,
it's hard.
I feel like, oh, yeah, it's me. Like people saying. So the thing is, many women feel like that nobody's seeing the work, and it's invisible work. This labor is beyond this carrying the baby and caring for the baby and child, changing diapers. People think that that's the labor, that's the work of motherhood. It's deeper than that from what I've heard from this moms. It's that mental work of always worrying about the child, always feeling like you cannot do anything without planning with the child in mind, always feeling like you will not be good enough for the child. All of that mental work is what's invisible and it's what does not get acknowledged. So a husband who can acknowledge all of these things would make a huge difference in the life of his woman. And that's when Mary had a little lamb.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, there's so much to unpack there, so much, simple. I think for me, my greatest takeaway so far has been simple solutions are actually what make the greater difference. In all of this, we haven't talked about seeing, going to a doctor, or buying. We've not mentioned any drug. We've not talked of anything difficult. Exercise. Eat properly. Acknowledge. Thank you. Validate our feelings. Acknowledge. Speak to it. Say, yes, I understand this is going on. For everyone on this call, okay, guys, the days of let's go and greet Mama Emmanuel that just had a baby, and then we go there, we're sitting there, we're wondering what's going on. Those days are over. If you're coming to support, come to support. Make sure she's getting the support she needs. Okay, mom, what's going on? Is someone cleaning the floors for you? Is someone, carrying? I mean, that story of the lady about to, stab herself. That's really crazy. That there were people in the house and everyone was asleep. I'm just imagining to myself that thankfully was averted. But imagine if she had actually harmed herself. That's even triggering another cycle because the man himself will feel guilty. So he's even going to be at risk of, having a breakdown, thinking that, oh, how could I have been asleep? And my wife was going through all this and I didn't know. So simple solution, fathers, friends, mommies, sisters, brothers, there's a lot of work, that we need to do. And it's just simple stuff. Okay. Wow. Thank you so much, Kachi. So I'm going to ask, okay, if you have questions, please, you can share them now, so that we can get Kachi to ask questions. We're almost at the 1 hour mark, but I want to ask, okay, why PSN? What's your what's that Marvel thing? What's your origin story? Yes. So why PSN? What motivated you to how will I put it? Go out of your way to actually set up something. Rather than just, oh, I have this knowledge, and I'm spreading it around family, friends, and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, two major reasons. I felt really called to do the work, and I know that sounds cliche, but two things happened in my life that I was, as a young adult, I was 24 years old, and the first one, I was in Delta State, Sapele, just chilling and living like a baby boy, just enjoying my life. I had just finished about starting my master's degree, and I got a call from my dad, and he says, "Hey, Shebi, you studied psychology." No joke, no cap at all. This is my dad.
That's so a dad. So I'm with you on that.
Like, Kachi, say you studied psychology. I was like, yeah. what's happening? Like, hey, mention a relative, just had a baby, you know, and she's acting crazy. You know, she's not okay. She talking about killing the baby. She tried to stab her husband. She's saying things, you know, they think everybody's saying like it's put her hand into something fetish.
Yes.
You know, that I should come see her. And I was like, oh, okay. This sounds like postpartum psychosis. She just had the baby. She's doing all of this. Tell them. So I told my dad, this is what you should tell your kingsmen. This is what you should tell your people. They should take her to Yaba Psychiatry. I know somebody at the military hospital. You should take her to the military hospital. She needs psychiatric help. This is not the psychologist work, you know, because she's psychotic. It's stabilized first before she gets like psychological intervention. So the truth is, you know, sadly, she did not get the help that she needed. So everybody thought it was a spiritual problem. They brought her to the village. I went to the village, you know, to go see them, see her. I spoke to her husband, spoke to her, spoke to everybody in the family. But I was 24 years old. What does a 24-year-old boy know? You know, everybody dismissed it. People said, okay, we've heard you. This is not about psychology.
Thank you.
They teased me like I had the first class. Like, is it because you had the first class in psychology? This is not academic stuff. You know, this your first class is shocking you. You know, this is arrogant. Don't know anything.
I can so imagine the conversation.
They mocked me. You know, they really mocked me. You know, they said like, this is spiritual. This is something they have it under control. She's in the village now. They'll see this person. They'll see that person. They took her from church to church, church to church. She suffered. Eventually, they took the baby from her. They kicked her out of the house. Blah 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 blah. She really suffered. You know, that was the first thing. And I tell you, no joke. 2 weeks after I left the village, I get a call from my friend saying, "Hey, you remember this our friend?" I said, "Yes." His wife just born. I said, "Okay." She's acting strange. What's going on? I just came back from the village.
Village, wow.
I really just had this problem. So I panicked. I was like, is she hearing voices? Is she saying things? They were like, no, she's just acting weird. She's staying in her room alone by herself. She's always crying. They don't know what's happening. Depression and anxiety, like, you know. So I came to Lagos. Interestingly, they paid for my trip to come to Lagos. I came to see this couple. I spoke with them. They got it. It's crazy, isn't it? The prophet is not recognized in his own house, but he got it. Like, the wife got it. It was the wife's words that actually led to PSN. She said, Kachi, by week 5, when she started to feel better, she was like, Kachi, how come nobody told me that I could have suffered depression and anxiety after childbirth? She never missed antenatal class. She went for her postpartum checks regularly. Nobody told her that she could go through this. And I went back home and I felt really upset. Like, how come nobody, it's true, like, this is my ability, this woman's going through this. Nobody's telling them. Like, I was so upset. Like, I was so pissed about it. And I realized, like, yo, you have a degree in psychology. You have a network of young people who have just studied psychology, looking for what to do. Like, we can pool resources together and create something special, you know. I had, my godfather at the time was the medical director of Randall General Hospital. So like I had relationships that I felt like I could leverage to raise awareness about this issue. Then I went to meet him, you know, bless his soul, Dr. Kuleoni, like he's an amazing mentor for me. I went to meet him, you know, in his house. I remember that morning. I went very early so I can catch him at home. 6 a.m. I was in his house in GRA, and I was like, Daddy, see you. I had a PowerPoint presentation, actually. See, this is what I think we can do about it. He's a gynecologist. He got it. He was like, oh, I see this at the clinic at Randall. Of course, do, you know, your interventions in the hospital, but we don't have money. We cannot pay you. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about paying me. Don't worry. You know? And then that's how we started. We started with Randall General Hospital, the first hospital we visited, August 2015. And we just spoke to the moms about depression, shared flyers with them. The reception was great. Mothers was like, oh yeah, my first pregnancy, I experienced this. And that's how this whole and now it's a whole blown movement. And there's probably, I'm not trying to take the credit for all of the work here, but if you check from 2015 to this time, the awareness around maternal mental health issues in Nigeria has
Yes.
increased. The whole ecosystem now of people trying to do this work.
Yes,
and I really did start with all of the momentum we tried to create in 2015, and I'm just thankful for the increase in awareness, but there's still more to be done. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Definitely. Thank you for feeling something and saying something. It's my turn
For
to sound
sure.
cliche. Yeah, thank you, for doing something about it. And I think I would say, to everyone who is also on this call, what, guys, it's still kind of, it feels like we're rotating around the same thing. There's so much, that can be done if we would just stand up and do something. Everyone who has received this information, especially if you didn't know much about these things, before now, there's so much you can do. So we need to begin to think differently about pregnancy, about moms, and, bring that mental health conversation, into it. Now that we know that, it affects everybody, it affects everybody. So at the risk of, sounding scary, but if you are planning to get married, in the next 2 years, how do you know that the person you are getting married to is not going to have security issues, kind of, and bring challenges to relationship because he didn't bond properly with his mom, because his mom had some sort of mental challenge that nobody saw, was unrecognized, and things like that, so there's so much. But I think the key takeaway has been, what you can do is actually not so dramatic. And most of the time, if we start early and get things done, provide that support, provide the buffer, so that if at all a woman turns out to be 1 in 5, in quotes, she has enough support, to see her through. So now, support, how do we contact PSN? So if I think, or I feel I know someone and I just need to get in touch, what should we do?
That's a great question. So you could easily reach us on social media. So at PSN Africa, PSN Africa. Our DMs are always open. We have fantastic people who are very responsive and happy to get in touch with you. You can go on our bio. We have a support group, the Dr. Ijoma Idaresit's support group. You can go on that group and you get women. We have moms who are on that group, providing support to one another, sharing their experiences, reaching out when they need something, when they need to talk. We hold space for you to process how you're feeling. You can sign up for that. If you want to speak to an individual therapist, we have therapists, on standby who are willing to speak with you one-on-one and help you navigate or process some of the things that you might be feeling. So PSN Africa, on Instagram, our bio is there. You can just click on that bio, you'll see a link to join that group. And when you join the group, a therapist will contact you immediately too. Okay, so even when you join the group, you have an opportunity to interact with the therapist. So please do that if you want to reach out to us. You can send us an email, info@postpartumafrica.org. Again, the email is on our page on Instagram. Just click that email button on Instagram there, and you'll see the email address, info@postpartumafrica.org. That's our email address. You could reach us those ways, and we'll be more than happy to provide you any support that you might have or answer any questions. I think that a lot of people see us as, we raise awareness. Sometimes they shy away from asking us direct questions. So, even if you're not currently struggling, someone you want your questions answered. You have questions about this thing you want to ask. Please just reach out to us via DM. We're happy to answer your questions. You're a husband, you don't know what to do. You're confused about how to support your wife, how to do better. That's why we're there. Reach out to us. We're more than happy to answer any questions and help you as you navigate this journey. Because the truth is, and this is a conversation for another day, men too suffer depression after childbirth. So, and we don't talk about it enough. Men, I have been privileged to work with a couple men, not a lot, who have gone through anxiety and depression after their wife had their babies. And we don't talk about that too often. So if you're a man too, reach out, speak up. I know society makes it difficult, stigmatizes men who reach out and are vulnerable, but please reach out. your wife needs you healthy, your child needs you healthy, you need yourself healthy.
We do.
At the risk of sounding cliche, there's no health without mental health. So please reach out.
Okay, wow, thank you so much, Kachi. Okay, so this has been really amazing. Just to be sure, that there aren't any questions. If you want to ask any questions, this is like last minute chance kind of to throw in a question. However, you can Kachi has told us how to get across to PSN Africa. We're going to try to put up the pages, as in the addresses, on our Instagram story, so that you can take a look at it, but you can just reach out to Eddie and Amy, and we would, put you through, to them. It's so important, to reach out, I want to say thank you very much, to Kachi and the PSN Africa team, for offering. I mean, they're saying you can just reach out and ask a question. I want to know what to do, and you will get an answer. You can reach out and get access to a therapist. That's a lot, that is being offered. So it's something that we should, take advantage of. Tell your friends, tell your moms, find the answers that you need. Be like Kachi, and do something, about, what you've seen. Someone is asking, what are your views on VBAC mothers, Dr. Kachi?
Yeah, I think that VBAC mothers are particularly susceptible because there's a lot of anxiety. Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety about the whole process, and it's not just VBAC mothers, but I mean, to your point, I think VBAC mothers are more at risk of struggling with anxiety and also postpartum PTSD than other moms, and I think that this should be spoken about more. They should have this conversation with their doctors to reduce the anxiety that's involved. I think they need a lot of support, encouragement, because I think people shy away from VBAC, like encouraging moms to have vaginal birth again after having
birth. Yeah. So VBAC is vaginal birth after childbirth. Just to clarify, in case anyone is wondering, vaginal birth after cesarean. Sorry.
Yeah. So like when the mom has cesarean, what I see is that a lot of times the doctor just tell them, okay, you have a cesarean again, and then when they say, oh no, I want to try to have vaginal delivery, there's a lot of anxiety, and it could be really traumatic, the whole experience. Especially if the doctor is not supportive, if the doctor is not encouraging, they could be very susceptible to depression, but more importantly, more significantly, anxiety too. So I do think they need a lot of support. I do think that if you're a VBAC mom, there's no harm in going, right off the bat, getting a therapist for yourself to work with you throughout the pregnancy.
Through the process.
But as possible, get a doula. Get somebody who's willing to work with you too. You need somebody in the room advocating for you. Hopefully a midwife that you're familiar with to help you through that process through it. And then once you have the baby, you need all the support, like every other mom too, to go through that. So that's what I think. I think they do need a lot of support, as they are particularly susceptible. It's a very courageous thing to do. But any support they can get will be important.
Wow, thank you for answering that question, Kachi. Okay, so I'm going to round this off and call it a day, or a night if you're in Nigeria, and an afternoon if you are where Kachi is. So thank you again so much. I will say it again. Please reach out to PSN Africa at PSN Africa on Instagram. If you have questions, you can join. If you're a mom and you're struggling, you can join one of the support groups. You can join the Dr. Ijoma Darcy, support group, and just, get the help that you need. If you are a dad or a mother-in-law, or a grandma or a friend, and you have questions, you feel that your friend or your family member, needs this support, please reach out. If you are a dad, you want to know what to do, reach out. Feel something, say something. That's PSN motto, and that's what we're asking everyone to do. So I'm going to say a big thank you to everyone who joined in, on our Insta Live. Thank you, Eddie and Amy. Is very grateful, to you all for coming along with us. We will, do our best to keep these things going, to share information, so that, we know that, especially in our corner of the world, things can be unnecessarily complicated. Like Kachi said, Nigerians baseline, we're kind of traumatized, but there's a lot we can do to help ourselves out, and that's what Eddie and Amy is here, and that's what Eddie and Amy is about. Eddie and Amy, if you're not aware, was originally founded by Dr. Ijoma Idarisit, and the work, of supporting moms through pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum is going on. So please, just follow us, on Instagram. You can check out our website. We have tons of helpful, informative articles, for you. You can reach out to us if there's something you want to know about, some information that you want to get, something you want us to talk about. We're open to do so. We're also open to linking you up to other kinds of support that you might need, like PSN Africa. So thank you very much, everyone. At this point, we can call it a day, and let's Kachi go and do whatever it is that newly what's the word, inducted or new PhDs do. Kachi, thank you very much. Thank you to you and to the entire PSN team. We really appreciate you. At Eddie and we love you so much. Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining in. God bless you. Have a great weekend. Remember, support a mom. Feel something, say something, reach out to PSN Africa if you need to. Thank you so much, guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.